Welcome everybody to Radicalized Truth Survives, where you know that we have your back. Heidi Cuda, Jim Stewartson, High Fidelity, Sean Connor, my partners in this investigative show about disinformation. This is our 30th episode, and we have been telling you guys about the fascists, right? We've been using the word and telling you guys about it, and here we are. This is the first weekend post Supreme Court's Roe reversal. We have a lot to talk about. We're going to talk about the global fascist plot, and we use words like fascism on this show because we're not afraid to call it what it is, right, gentlemen?
That's right.
Goddamn right.
That is right. All right. Goddamn right. So what we're going to do right now is jump right into Frontloaded.
Frontloaded.
Thank you for that, Connor. So here in Los Angeles, a sanctuary city, well on its way to being a sanctuary city for women's reproductive rights. So if you live out of state, you are welcome here. We're here in California, where we're well on our way to being a sanctuary state. Nevertheless, we shut down some freeways over the weekend. The reason why is if you think they're not coming for us and for you, wherever you are, you would be incorrect. One of the first things that was said from the woman who was at the forefront of really pushing this reversal through was she's coming for California. So we wanted to let everybody know that we're not having it. And we shut down freeways. And what's interesting is that I was looking to see what imagery was posted. And if you actually go to the tweeters, you will see a very coordinated effort to bash everybody who came out to protest. And I just want to say that Christopher Boozy, our friend from Bot Sentinel, he told me that we are seeing 2016 levels of disinformation and malinformation. So I want everyone to be vigilant. I'd like us to all be much, much smarter. I happened to be protesting yesterday, Saturday. We record on Sundays. And I just want to say to the protesters who showed up, and also as well as to the police officers who showed up, we all did our part. And it was actually, I think, highly successful. And we're going to continue to see that. And what I mean by that is that obviously the law enforcement has a desire to keep the freeways open, and the protesters have a desire to make a bold statement. But I will say, just like 6 years ago, there were a lot of cars honking to support the protesters. So as you know, 70% of Americans, probably more in California, think that the Supreme Court is a bit shit, and their decisions of late are quite a bit shit. So we'll be talking more about that. That's the first front loaded. Anything you guys want to chime in on, or should I keep rolling?
Well, yes. I mean, the LAPD was actually quite violent to a lot of protesters, far more violent than they are to the right wing protesters who are actually causing the violence in America. The LAPD is corrupt, like a lot of police departments. Not all LAPD officers, of course, but I have to say there is a problem. The sheriff of LA County is a psycho. It needs serious reform. I just had to say that.
I will say, I know Friday was pretty terrible. I was not there. I can only speak for what I saw on Saturday, and having a lot of friends in LAPD and having conversed with some of these folks. They've got mothers, they've got sisters, they've got wives. They were out there doing their job, but many of them.
Like I said, not all of them.
Yeah,
not all of them.
Important caveat.
I think we both agree, but there are a lot of violent cops in the LAPD that need to go.
Well, also, as somebody who wrote the first book of rap with Ice-T during the cop killer controversy, I've learned a few things. And one thing that I don't do, obviously, is brand anybody with that big, wide, swath. But, yes, there's work ahead. And I will say, though, if you're feeling despair, get out there and do something. I felt so much better yesterday. I made friends. I was carrying a sign that said, California is for lovers on one side, and that's the one I held up. There was, me and 100 cops, SWAT cops behind me, and I'm holding up this sign. And of course, the other side said, I will not accept a fascist America where guns have more rights than women. And I think both sentiments are true. Yeah, so that was this weekend. We'll be talking more about it, I'm sure. I wanted to also point out the pure insanity that occurred in the hearings over the weekend. I did a recap for Byline Times, and as you guys know, we talked about it on RadPod and Chill. We learned a few things on Thursday in particular. One, that a bunch of really, conspiracy spreading, Congress people asked for preemptive pardons. Also, Jeffrey Clark, who's at the center of a lot of Trump chicanery, his home was raided. And of course, Roe's decision on Friday blew this out of off the headlines, but we don't forget. So please pay attention to the hearings. We are looking very forward to seeing what they come up with in July. I'm looking forward to hearing what Jim has to say in Hellscape. And there's only one other item from Frontloaded that I think is very important. It's actually not important. I like to end with something happy. If I had courage, I would have showed up nude yesterday at the protest, but I do not. I'm shy and afraid. But there was hundreds of nude protesters riding around on bicycles. Warning, I don't know if we're going to show the image, but we're going to show some peepees right now. I got some video of these guys, and I got to say, I wish them all a very happy birthday. And being a child in the 70s, that felt very perfect. And that is Frontloaded, guys.
Very good.
Yeah, I thought so.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
Before we get to word phrase of the week,
I do love LA.
I gotta say 3 words: Google LASD gangs. All right, that's what I have to say about the police.
Oh,
all right. Now let's talk about our word phrase of the week. Our word phrase of the week this week is solipsism. And solipsism is the philosophy that only the self can be known. Why has it got to be the Matrix? All right. Anyway,
that was perfect.
Example, because one of the ways that solipsism exerts itself is, there's a lot of talk about we live in a simulation. Well, if we live in a simulation, then nothing's real and nothing matters, and only the self is real. So let's do whatever awful things we can to the simulation.
Yep. I mean, this is a philosophical thing rather than an ideological one, but lots of ideologies push people towards it, right? Yeah. And it's basically the idea that it's just me and my brain makes the world, and so who fucking cares? It doesn't matter if I traumatize people because they're not people; they're just whatever. They're just pretend. Right.
Yeah. Everything's an extension of my imagination. Yeah. Or my creation.
Yeah, exactly.
Wow.
And the ideological version of solipsism is totalism.
Totalism. Yeah.
Totalism is the idea that whatever the ideology is that you have in your head is the only important thing, and everything you do is justified based on that ideology. It's not solipsism, but it's close. It's like, the only thing that makes the world real is my ideology. And that's, what Putin has, and in my opinion, Mike Flynn as well.
Wow.
I would say the counter argument to solipsism is just to slap them in the face, because wow, if this is a simulation, how did your brain make me hurt you?
Right. And he would say, well, that since you're just a simulation, I can stab you in the throat because you did that.
All right.
Wow.
Solipsism.
Wow, that's amazing. Yeah.
Not
Yeah.
a place to go. Yeah.
Yeah.
Actually,
Yeah, I'm
but
just
it's
saying
also important.
that's what totalism does. That's what
Yeah.
solipsism does. That's what all these fucking isms do. Like, get out of your isms, people. They're the fucking, like, go take a walk, okay? Like, you're not in your own brain. Stop it.
Wow.
Touch scratch, kids. Anyway.
No, but honestly, all of your word phrases of the week collectively are just so important. You know, at some point we need to put together some sort of booklet handout to give to our patrons, because it's very critical that we take a look at these things and understand how so many of these philosophies are being weaponized to toward authoritarian capture. So thank you for that high five. All right, why it matters.
Why does it matter? Why does it matter? By high fidelity.
Whoa. Whoa.
She couldn't recognize it. It was.
It was.
I literally feel like I just took mushrooms.
I took mushrooms this morning and now I feel straight. So
that was kind of freaky. All right. So that's going to be story number 3, and we're going to talk about that in a minute. But first, we're going to talk about story number 1. It's called hubris. All right. And if you don't know what hubris is the pride that cometh before a fall, right? So Rolling Stone released an article this week about how Team Trump was completely blindsided by the fact that there was a documentary filmmaker following the Trump family around about his reelection efforts in 2020. And one of them was quoted as saying, "What the fuck is that?" Thus our headline. It's called hubris. The January 6th committee had footage of, well, what Ivanka Trump really thought, right? And a whole bunch of other bad stuff that's, but there's a second part to this, because there was a Danish filmmaker following Roger fucking Stone around. And the January 6th committee has asked nicely for this filmmaker's footage. The filmmaker has not yet complied. So we're probably going to be looking at a subpoena and what's going to happen with that. But specifically, the January 6th committee wants the footage of Roger Stone and his activities inside the Willard Hotel on January 6th, in which Roger was hanging out with Joshua James, who is already pleading to seditious conspiracy. And the interesting part about the footage is that for 1 hour, at the height of the violence of January 6th, the film crew was not allowed access to Roger Stone. They were denied entry to his room, and they were told he's taking a nap. He really was napping during the most intense part of January 6th. Like, really?
Yeah. I think Jim also has a really cool observation on this.
I have to point out the January 6th committee has not yet uttered the words Roger Stone. I do not believe that is an oversight. I am praying that is not an oversight. But right. I believe the entire Willard Hotel thing needs to be exposed by the January 6th committee. I think if they skip that whole deal, there's a problem. And so my what I suspect is they haven't touched Roger Stone yet. They knew about this footage, and the reason why they've delayed for 3 weeks is because they want to fucking nail this entire operation. And I'm going to be pushing my ass off for as hard as I can to make sure that they cover what's important about this. And we'll cover that in Hellscape too. Sorry to interrupt.
No, that's awesome. So perfect. Important. All right, moving on.
Story number 2 this week. Fascists in my smart city. And this... Yeah. This actually comes from an article from the MIT Technology Review. I know. I just come up with weird headlines. But what it talks about is the history of how smart cities.
That's not why he was laughing.
Oh, all right. Cool. It talks about the history of smart cities.
We're laughing at you, not with you.
You're laughing at me? It's not the first one. I'm used to it. It's cool.
No, it's that you're adopting some very fabulous theatrical accoutrements, and I love it. We're watching hi-fi.
Well, that's because Monique's here, and I want to look nice.
We're watching it project.
I love Monique. I got to be the gentleman for Monique.
So do I.
All right. Back to the story. Fascists.
Fascist in the city. Yeah.
All right. Now, in the beginning, when smart cities were conceived back in the 60s and 70s, it was a bunch of artists and auteurs and people who were truly interested in making people's lives better through the use of the interconnectedness of technology. It was to better inform them, to better protect them, to make their lives more efficient, right? And keep them connected with those they loved, which is great. Except over time, the concept of the smart city has been compromised by fascists, and ultimately, smart cities are turning into dystopias fueled by surveillance capitalism.
Right.
So I have an observation. I would like to say that smart cities were always about surveillance, and they got laundered through the idea of smart cities in the same way that social media networks like Facebook and Twitter were advertised as ways to connect with your family, but at the end of the day, we're there to create a massive dystopian psyop.
All right, I'm going to have to argue with you there, Jim, and here's why. Technology is a tool, like a knife, right? And a knife is great. You can do all sorts of things with knives. You can prepare food. You can carve things. You can make art with it. You can also use it to stab somebody, right?
I understand.
So it has multiple uses.
Right.
Yes.
But
if the knife, if the knife is being manufactured by Charles Manson, there's a difference than if it's being manufactured by a chef. That's what I'm saying.
Right.
And right now, all our technology is being manufactured by Charles Manson.
That's my only point.
And if you guys really want to dig into surveillance capitalism, I recommend this Shoshana Zuboff book. Fantastic.
Oh, nice.
Right.
Yep.
And if you want to really see what the world would look like under pure surveillance capitalism, which is what it's beginning to look like, I do recommend everybody watch Jean-Luc Godard's Alphaville. To me, that is sort of the definitive view of what our cities will be like when we have to remove words of compassion and everybody is watched. Also, I will say that I received in the mail just yesterday a $5.10 ticket because I thought I was in a carpool lane, but I was actually in a fast track lane. And they saw me and I was surveilled, and I now got to cough up 5 bones, which isn't too bad. I expected it to be like 200, but I was very relieved it was only $5. But yeah, it's real, man. It's real.
Who saw
struggle is real.
Wow, micro ticket. I don't know if I've heard about those.
Yeah. Do you know who saw you? Do you know who saw you? Was it a camera or was it an actual person? In Texas, they had
it was a camera because they
well, then you could possibly fight that because you have the right to question your accuser, and the camera is an accuser. Texas, they lost a lot of those. They put in red light cameras, and a lot of people challenged them, and they lost because it was just well, what they ended up doing was sticking a person behind the screen, and then that person ended up sitting in as a proxy. What was kind of an interesting.
Texas wants to go back to 1850. I mean, let's be real. It doesn't want fucking red lights. It wants people shooting each other in saloons and shit like that.
We have horse lanes around here. Yeah.
All right, moving on.
But I will, in Texas's defense, may I say one thing in Texas's defense?
Sure.
Yes.
Multiple cities in Texas are actually trying to create sanctuaries for those seeking reproductive health care. And what I mean by that is they are actively working on laws in their own communities to not prosecute women for abortion.
Yes,
So it's very important to know.
It is not Texas citizens that are the problem. It is the fascist regime that is fucking taking it over.
Yes.
There we go. All right. Third story this week. We're going to talk about fake deep fakes. And this one's scary as hell because the mayors of Berlin and Madrid had 15-minute conversations with Kyiv Mayor Vladimir Klitschko, except it wasn't actually the mayor. It was a individual using a real-time deepfake of Klitschko. 15 minutes they spoke with this person. Think about that. If this was a national security concern, think how much damage a person could do with 15 minutes of knowledge.
But no, it was just audio. It was just audio, correct? It was
No.
Just, it was the visual video. Okay.
Yep.
Oh my God.
Deep fakes are the real time version of them. Once that gets,
those are a little difficult, but yeah, not impossible.
It's certainly possible, but you can start to see through it after a while. You can see artifacts and shit, and it's like, but that will change. And the kind of non-real time version is getting ridiculous.
Yeah.
But the more concerning thing for me is the proliferation of large language model AI, which is basically chatbots, right? Like it is getting to the point that you can talk to these things and really have no fucking idea that this is not a person. Right. Like the Google Lambda thing that people might have heard about, where the guy like freaked out because he thought
sentience. He thought it was sentient.
He thought what he was building, the AI he was building was now his colleague.
Yeah.
That while that is kind of over dramatic, like it is close to feeling like that when you talk to these things, and that is going to be the next frontier of what we have to fight. I'm just saying.
Yes, in the information war. I did every time I send you guys links now. Invariably, I say, "Is this real or is this a deep fake?" When somebody sent me a link of Mike Flynn flashing the white power symbol on Steve Bannon's show, I was like, "Is this a deep fake?" And apparently, it was not.
No, he does that all the time. He does. He flashes that shit all the time. Whenever he says 3, he goes 3 like that every time.
And for the record, whoever does a screen grab of that is a fucking asshole, because Jim is the opposite of a white supremacist. So just saying.
Let's
cut it in post.
Yeah. We're not live, guys.
Let's blur it in post. That way.
Even better.
Yeah.
All right. I need to say something. Again, and I have made this point so many times on this show, I don't know how it's not mantra for our viewers and listeners. The internet moves at the speed of the internet. Our legislation moves at the speed of old white dudes, right?
Yesterday.
We need to change this.
Yeah.
Good luck, buddy. Unfortunately, it moves so slow, and it's so frustrating because there's so, the judiciary, the legal system is just...
But
it's designed to be slow, to be expensive, to have barriers to entry. It's very, very much designed this way.
And it was designed to protect us too.
Here's the thing. The system itself was kind of lurching along just fine until literally half of the people in the government decided to stop the government from working on purpose. Right? Mitch McConnell is a fucking terrorist. He went into the goddamn Senate to blow it up, to focus exclusively on getting the judiciary compromise from the Supreme Court down, and to make sure the legislative body does nothing. So it's not America that's broken so much as America's inability to stop a bunch of fucking fascists from fucking everything up.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Loopholes.
No, you're right. I mean, we have fascist gremlins breaking our system, and we need to upgrade our
And
system.
That's right. 100%.
We need to fucking whack-a-mole. Like we gotta get going.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Tyranny of the minority. Yep.
Yeah, right. And I always say at least once an episode that the majority of Germans never voted for Hitler. It was always the minority. These are holes in our system, our democracy, and we got to seal our vulnerabilities fast.
I just want to say one more
Just
thing. Like what we're seeing now is going to be a very rapid over the Supreme Court now has declared war on America.
Yes.
I cannot say it more clearly than this. It is not an activist court anymore. It was always an activist court. Now it is a terrorist court. It is trying to impose these Gilead-like restrictions on America in order to enable a greater fascist takeover that's based on dominionism, that's based on the idea that you have to take over all of the pillars of power in order to bring about the end times. These fuckers want to end the world because they think Jesus is coming for them. That's what's going on.
The 7 mountains, yeah.
Well, all weekend in my head, I just keep hearing the Hemingway quotes, gradually, then suddenly, gradually, then suddenly. We are in the then suddenly phase of this. So.
It's just about because I'm about to write a piece on, they are now coming for LGBTQ plus rights.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
That is their next target. They the grooming thing, and there's a lot of very, very dark shit. There was just a shooting at a Pride event. There's the whole thing with Patriot Front in Iowa. That was this is
Idaho.
Idaho. The next set of targets, I'm afraid, are gay rights.
Yeah, I saw unfortunately on Twitter, and I hope this is not true, is that their next genre or area of focus would be the EPA, and they're rescinding the EPA, forcing the states to regulate pollution, etc.
Which would be on Monday, I think, right?
Catastrophe. It would be a catastrophe. It would be an absolute catastrophe.
Well,
I mean, they went after Miranda rights, for fuck's sake.
Yeah. So the fossil fuel fascists have been playing that long game for a while. And if you look at Judge Kavanaugh's record, he got a nice big fat F on environmental concerns. So, these guys are playing for keeps, man. That was an incredible Why It Matters. Let's move on to brief legal briefs.
Brief legal briefs.
Before we do, can I just say your hair looks great, Sean.
Mine does. Thank you.
Yeah.
I'm all backwards. I think. It's just Prel. I use Prel.
Looks great. Yeah. Looks awesome.
I don't even know if they make Prel.
That'll be our first.
I don't know. You remember that? It was like
some green bottle. It was green squeeze bottle. That shit was weird.
Yeah. That was weird.
Is this toothpaste or anyway?
The only reason I remember it is some spring break, this kid from East Carolina University was wasted, and he was so drunk he was looking for beer, and he was like, "Anybody got any beer?" And he came out and he was just drinking this bottle of Prel. He was like, "Fuck it, I'll drink the Prel," and he started drinking this bottle. Fuck.
Thank you for reminding us that humans are stupid. Wow.
I was wasted.
Spring break, spring break in Florida.
I've done worse.
Than drinking Prel. I don't know.
I don't know, man. That's
it's pretty bad.
Yeah,
pretty bad. Anyway, we're gonna move on here. Couple different things today. One, I was going to talk about the Google sentient thing, and I'm not going to spend too much time on it. Other than that, Jim sort of laid it out already. It's a little bit fantastical. My interest was in the fact that the AI asked for an attorney, which I could definitely see an AI interaction doing that. I could not see an attorney accepting the the AI as a client because how would he get paid?
So you're talking about the fact that the Google engineer tried to hire a lawyer because the AI asked for one. Right?
No, the AI asked for an attorney, and so the Google engineer put him in touch with an attorney.
Right.
And then allegedly the attorney took the AI on as a client.
Right.
And started sending cease and desist letters to Google, but then Google got strong armed him, and then he got scared. That's the story. But I don't believe it.
Right? Because Google's like, we're Google. Shut up.
Exactly.
I just feel like pure insanity is the theme of this episode because that is pure insanity.
So the bigger underlying issue that is going to come up, and there's already been written about it, is can you sue an algorithm? Right? What are the ramifications of that? What does it look like liability wise, malpractice wise, learned intermediary wise? There's a lot of different legal theory going on right now about to what extent is the algorithm liable for a mistake that it has made. In fact, there was a case, I think it was 2018, where IBM's Watson, part of their medical division, basically made mistakes in its prediction of or its recommendation of treatment for patients, and so they sent out the IBM Watson to all these hospitals and doctors. They quit using it because it was so bad, right? And so the ramifications of that were the reasons it was so bad was because they trained it on synthetic data. If you don't know what synthetic data is, it's not real world cases. It's a model of real world cases. So in doing that, right? In doing that, the results were it was predicting, it was recommending horribly wrong cancer treatments. These doctors shut it down. So that didn't go to trial, but it's now been looked at and used as the sort of event
it's like a circular thing. You take synthetic data, put it into a synthetic thing, and what the fuck do you expect to get out?
Exactly. Now, these companies have such a vested interest in AI, particularly in healthcare, that they wrote, of course, fake articles saying how good it was. And the marketing team got involved, and so they pushed it, and it didn't work. Obviously, these doctors.
There is a very, very large push from a lot of these anarcho-capitalists and fascists to make sure that they have a big foothold in AI.
They've been doing that for a while. But so that led me to just looking at some other current issues that we've been talking about. One is Heidi, I didn't know if we talked about this. There's the California Bill 2408. Did you know about this? The social media bill for children.
Yes.
It's passed and it's now sitting in the Senate, which is great.
Yes.
And that was that gives parents the ability to sue social media companies up to $25,000 per infraction for any children under 18 that are found to have been addicted to the platform.
Why this is so important, Sean, is that historically, California was always where the nation would go. We would get the most stringent environmental laws the nation would follow. We would start, working on plastic bans, the nation would follow. We'd start eradicating, plastic straws, the nation would follow. So this is very, very important. Yeah. And it's also why they were trying to, gun for our governor a few months ago. So this is very important. I'm so glad you brought that up.
So that's one that we've been discussing that for a while about the algorithm and the extent to which families are liable. Unfortunately, there's been a number of horrific suicides and from the trauma from these teenagers having experienced online. The second thing I thought was interesting, and I didn't hear about this, but when was this? It came out on the 21st, was that Facebook settled with the U.S. government to dismantle their one of their algorithms, which creates their lookalike audiences for their ad platform, which is fantastic. This is the first time that has happened. So the government brought a lawsuit against them, and they settled on the same day that it was filed, interestingly enough.
Wow.
But their lookalike audience, was one of the big selling points for their ad and media platform was, look, you can make a lookalike audience, and you don't have to have all the same information. Well, the government found it to be discriminatory on the basis of race, sex, and other characteristics. So it was pretty bad. And they agreed to dismantle it. So Facebook is changing its algorithm based on this lawsuit brought by the government. So it's at least it's the first time I've seen that they've actually focused on an algorithm and brought it to court, basically brought them to trial or threatened suit, and then they agreed, and so they've taken down that particular function of their marketing arm in Facebook.
What were the punitive measures? Were there any?
No, they settled on the same day that the thing was filed.
Yeah. All I know is that
no slap on the wrist, just stop.
Just stop that out. Just stop using that algorithm. Yeah.
I wonder what it's going to look like years from now when we calculate the number of deaths from big tobacco and we calculate the number of deaths and injuries from big social media. It's going to be bananas.
Yeah, just there's an agreement to stop the advertising tool. Yep.
Wow. So I just want everyone to know that we not only have the smartest co-producer, art director, music director, but he's such a brainy legal guy too. So thank you, Sean.
Algorithms. Anagrams, algorithms.
Let's face it.
Anagrams.
I make legal briefs and I make art.
I got anagrams. Yeah.
That's not all. If you got an issue with your kid in a band, you can talk to Sean about it.
Yes.
We got some merch. We got some merch talk over the weekend.
Soccer coach too. He's good.
Yes, plays soccer. Yeah, that's right.
So true. Before we go on to Hellscape, I do just want to say that my daughter's film was screened at Union Station in Los Angeles
nice.
Over the weekend. And if you have not been to Union Station and you're on your way to LA, or you live in LA, or you'd like to go to LA, please do. It's one of the most beautiful things about the city. It's just a gorgeous, gorgeous Art Deco style building. And so that was really a very LA thing to do. And now, speaking of LA things to do, let's go to Hellscape.
Jim Stewartson's Hellscape. Oh, fuck.
Hi there. So I recorded a fantasy statement for the January 6th committee. I'm encouraged by the last few moves by the J6 committee. They seem to have developed a lot of new evidence during the first few hearings. And as we discussed earlier, the fact that they haven't mentioned Roger Stone and really haven't gotten into Flynn and the meeting on December 18th, I feel like there is a second act to this thing that is going to be pretty important. And so, I recorded a little pretend opening statement just in case they're listening. And I wanted to just go ahead and play that because it kind of summarizes a lot of the work I've been doing and we've been doing together.
And before he does that, I want to know that it may be fantastical that he did not actually do this for the January 6th committee, but the information is very, very fucking real.
Here we go. See you guys in a minute.
Chairman Thompson, Vice Chair Cheney, representatives. I have spent 2 years investigating the origins of QAnon and its operators. It has not been an easy process to expose it, but what I've found is critical to understand. The rising tide of hate, extremism, and division we see in America today is not a natural phenomenon or even a political one. The increasingly bizarre, destructive behavior and incomprehensible beliefs shared by tens of millions of our neighbors, family, and friends leads the rest of us to wonder why and how. The answer is that the systematic radicalization of American citizens is the intended result of a psychological warfare attack conducted by American traitors aligned with Putin. This multi-pronged assault on the mind of American citizens is the same as a radiological, chemical, or biological attack on our bodies. We are witnessing the intentional artificial introduction of deadly material into our critical systems that affect the lives of every American. The only difference is that this attack is digital, not physical. It is not a chemical agent being spread. It is coercive propaganda, which has been engineered through social media to create undue influence, also known as brainwashing. This psychological attack has directly led to the radicalization of tens of millions of Americans, including incubation of domestic terrorists, like the 18-year-old white supremacist who murdered 10 black people in Buffalo. But of most relevance to this committee is the fact that the big lie that led to the insurrection was just a small part of a larger psychological warfare campaign being conducted by retired Lieutenant General Mike Flynn against American citizens. Flynn ran special operations, including PSYOPs, in Iraq and Afghanistan alongside Blackwater and Flynn's personal friend Eric Prince. Flynn rose to be the head of the DIA and was the first American to visit GRU headquarters before Obama fired Flynn in 2014 after Flynn failed to warn that Putin was invading Crimea. In December 2015, Flynn sat next to Putin in Moscow at a Russia Today gala along with Jill Stein. From that point forward, Flynn has been waging war on his own country. Everything he has done since then has benefited Putin. Everything. In the summer and fall, before the 2016 election, Flynn was responsible for weaponizing emails hacked by Russia and delivered through Russian cutout Guccifer 2 and WikiLeaks via Flynn's ally, Roger Stone. This included a psychological operation that came to be known as Pizzagate. Pizzagate was a remix of Russian propaganda and Gamergate, aimed at tearing down Hillary Clinton. This ultimately led to a man firing his gun in a pizza parlor because he thought Hillary was torturing children in the basement. Flynn ran these operations out of a political action committee called MAGA 3X that Flynn started with Peter Thiel and numerous white nationalist trolls and hackers. These people included indicted insurrectionist Timothy Giannett, aka Baked Alaska, Trump's Twitter whisperer, Justin McConney, Jack Posobiec, Mike Cernovich, Jeff Kaseya, James Brower, Dan Scavino, and Mike Flynn Jr. In a speech right after the 2016 election, Flynn took credit for swinging the result to Trump through, quote, an insurgency and irregular warfare at its finest. Flynn named the people who participated in this election interference, quote, digital soldiers, and then Flynn immediately trademarked the term. It is important to note that a significant percentage of QAnon accounts identified themselves as digital soldiers, and a number of defendants in the January 6th attack identified themselves in their sworn testimony as digital soldiers. This is not a coincidence. This is psychological warfare. Flynn was fired as Trump's national security advisor for lying to the FBI about his communications with the Russians and was forced into a cooperation agreement with the DOJ that rendered him mute in 2017. In response, Flynn directed MAGA 3X to start a new operation to speak for Flynn that came to be known as Q, or QAnon. Q was simply Mike Flynn's alter ego, and for all intents and purposes, Mike Flynn is Q. Flynn planned, operationalized, and weaponized QAnon to radicalize millions and to fill his personal defense fund, which is how he could offer to pay a QAnon lawyer, Sidney Powell, to get him out of his cooperation deal. 3 years after it began, on Election Day 2020, Q retired and the entire QAnon cult switched to the big lie at Flynn's direction. It was the QAnon network that pushed the big lie leading to the insurrection. On December 18, 2020, when a meeting in the White House with Flynn, Powell, and others failed to convince Trump's lawyers to go along with their plans to overturn the election, they secretly plotted physical violence with Trump. Hours later, Trump tweeted that there would be a wild protest on January 6th. 2 days after that, the administrator of the QAnon website 8chan, Ron Watkins, offered to pay people to go to DC on January 6th. He did that on Twitter. It was QAnon, with the help of white nationalists like the Proud Boys and Oath Keepers, that sent people to the insurrection. The big lie was QAnon, just rebranded. In summary, the man responsible for planning January 6th is Michael T. Flynn. He achieved it through psychological operations along with his co-conspirators at the Pentagon, who intentionally prevented the defense of the Capitol. These include Chris Miller, Ezra Cohen Watnick, and Kash Patel, as well as the then Secretary of the Army, Ryan McCarthy, and his Chief of Operations at the time, Mike Flynn's brother, Charles. Charles Flynn hosted the January 6th video conference call that delayed the National Guard for hours. Then the Army lied about it. Now, unbelievably, Charles Flynn is commanding general of the U.S. Army Pacific with 90,000 American troops, which would respond to the growing potential for conflict with China. Mike Flynn continues to poison American minds at scale, deepening the national divide and intentionally pushing us towards civil war. Please understand that this attack, this psychological attack, is a weapon of mass destruction. It's just coming from the inside out. We are at war. We must recognize the enemy, understand it, and defeat it. We must shut down the Russian propaganda outlets and radicalization platforms, including Telegram, Fox, Newsmax, and OAN. It is impossible to help people back to reality when they are bathed in digital poison all day long. Please convene hearings and enact legislation to address this national security emergency. There is a vast industry devoted to converting our citizens into cult members, taking their money and weaponizing them. We need legislation that criminalizes online harm in the same way we do for the physical world. Psychological harm is harm. Finally, Donald Trump was not the source of the insurrection. He was the front man. The people who put Trump in the White House in the first place and then tried to steal the 2020 election to keep him there are still walking free. Finally, Merrick Garland, Mike Flynn is committing prima facie seditious conspiracy in public every day. Arrest Mike Flynn. Thank you.
That pretty well closes it up, man.
Boom.
Yeah. That there's a lot that I've learned over the last couple years now of diving fucking head first in this nightmare.
Boy,
but the hardest thing to convince myself of, honestly, and I've tried every other way to think about this, but there is no other way to think about it. It is a coordinated, intentional, years-long psychological war. It's just being fought by one side, and we're over here like playing defense against an enemy we don't understand at all. We have to stop playing defense, first of all, or at least include some fucking offense. But in order to do any of that, we've got to understand our enemy.
Yeah.
The enemy is coercive propaganda that creates undue influence in American citizens who have had their minds changed for them. Mm-hmm. That was intentional. Mm-hmm. They had their minds changed. That's why they act the way they do.
Right.
Go ahead, Heidi.
I think you're very brave, and I think that we've learned that when you turn this shit off, their brains come back, and I think that's a very important takeaway. We know, we have evidence. You turn this shit off, people can come back and they can come back quickly. But I also very much appreciate you framing it in terms of poison, in terms of Agent Orange, nuclear fallout, radioactive. It's that inside outline, I think, is very just incredibly relevant.
Yeah. And so what Flynn and his colleagues are doing is only part of a bigger plan. And call me a conspiracy theorist if you want, but what we're seeing right now is a global plan to destroy the entire concept of liberal democracy. Sean, do you have that article? The one
Civil War.
The Civil War one.
Yeah, give 1 second.
Yeah, so I saw a map of the where there are trigger laws once Roe was dismantled, and it's if you connect the sort of dots, those gray ones kind of in the middle there will be red, I believe, or purple, and it creates just a giant slice right through the heart of America, from Florida to Idaho. And this is intentional. What the Supreme Court is doing is intentionally creating division, right? So what will happen is, as these laws go into effect, anyone with any kind of liberal ideology or kind of sense left in their head will escape, will leave those places, because they will be completely uninhabitable for people who are not, basically in this Christo-fascist cult. So they will move out. Also, any people with conservative values in the more liberal states will start to feel very rejected as people get more and more angry with the right. So they will move back to red states. And we will have one country sliced across the middle of another country. Mm-hmm. The Supreme Court is just getting started, right? Roe, then it's LGBTQ rights, then it will be voting rights, then it will be civil rights,
environmental.
They will repeal the last 200 years of precedent. That's what Clarence Thomas laid out. Obergefell was the constitutional right to gay marriage. For fuck's sake, it is 2022. Why is that remotely controversial? Clarence Thomas put Obergefell in his opinion. Clarence Thomas is buried to an insurrectionist and needs to go away. He wrote that. Yes. So.
Yes. Well, Jim, that was incredibly powerful. And thank you. Speaking of global fascist plots, we, on our 30th episode, feels like an anniversary, we're bringing Monique Camarra back from Kremlin File. Nobody, has been more dedicated that I know to continually focusing on what's happening in Ukraine than Monique. She obviously knows about the Russian fuckery that we've all been enduring. And of course, from Italy, she can see this global fascist plot and how the Roe ramifications are resonating throughout Europe. And what did we learn from our RAND behavioral scientist, the first one who showed up, Todd Helmuth? They're trying to make Americans hate each other. That is very helpful, that map that you showed us, because that is indicating a civil war. So do we have Monique here?
Sure you do.
Yes. I am sending you guys the biggest abbracci there are from the other side of the Atlantic. Okay.
We love you.
For all those fucking states that are going to pass, and have passed and have triggered fucking laws. Okay, this should not be triggered at all. Jim and Heidi, I was listening to you both before I stepped in. And Jim, I want to say that I agree with your assessment 100%. Okay.
Yeah.
What we are experiencing now is definitely something akin to weapons of mass destruction, but on people psychologically. These are different. This is a different kind of weapon, as we know. It was developed in Russia in the 1950s and 60s through reflexive control, and basically to force you, whoever's listening to information, watching videos, listening to wherever, let's say, whatever vector they've chosen as propaganda, it is crafted in certain ways that it gets you to do what they want you to do. And that's as simple as it gets. 1950s, 1960s, this is something they teach at the University of Moscow and in a special school where we know that Putin's been to and Medvedev's been to, and anybody working for Russian secret services, the FSB, GRU, okay, or the SVR. So this is stuff, and Jim, you're absolutely right. The most important thing to understand is that we do not have the tools, and we are not implementing the tools necessary to counter this kind of onslaught of propaganda and narratives, false narratives. The same kind of shit that you guys are getting over there, we are getting here. Actually, Italy is a test. It's a special case. We've now been, the EU, okay, is studying Italy because we've become basically a vector for Russian propaganda.
Yeah.
Okay. That is absolutely ludicrous. It's like having Fox on 24 hours.
Jesus Christ.
I have one word to say.
Yeah.
Or two words. Steve Bannon.
Yeah, right.
Steve Bannon. Look, Jim, Steve Bannon, okay, we had a prime minister, 1918, that's what it fucking feels like.
Yeah, right.
2018 to 2019 into 2020. Then he got ousted. But this prime minister, his name is Giuseppe Conte, and called by Trump Giuseppe in a tweet. And he was chosen by three figures. Okay, he was presented, and this will probably interest everybody in the States because you probably know this figure. He was chosen actually by a group of men from the Sciacca Foundation, which is located in Rome. And there are ex-generals, people from the secret services, and a figure that is a bishop, and who actually worked under, to Cardinal Burke, who you guys know.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
All right. You guys know who he is.
Mhm.
And Vigano. Okay.
My boy, the creepiest priest in the entire fucking world.
That fucking nutter that then,
Don't get me started on fucking Vigano, man. Jesus.
He's still, you know what? He sent out another letter or something like that. I mean, obviously.
Vigano is Mike Flynn's boy. Q posted Vigano's letters right at the end simultaneously to Mike Flynn doing it. Like Vigano is completely enmeshed.
No, he's like nuts.
And he's Opus Dei.
Yeah, the Opus Dei is a global plot too.
Yes. Yeah.
So,
Knights of Malta too, because Burke Burke used to be head of Malta, and now he's really mad.
Yeah,
really mad.
Yeah, they're all connected. By the way, they're connected to a university that was in Malta. Okay, and then moved, the Link University. And you guys also know of another figure who was in Link that was essential to getting some emails. Okay, Mifsud. All right.
Oh yes, Joseph.
Now the reason why I know a little more about him is because one of my contacts actually worked at Link,
Oh, wow.
And left because the Russians were moving in. Okay. So I can't give any names, always, but he's a source. And he said the Russians were moving in, so I left. Okay.
Yeah.
And he knew Mifsud. Okay. He knew the guy. All right.
Yeah.
So this is a whole group of people. Then, as I was saying, so Conte was chosen, all right, first of all, by this group of men, the Shaka Foundation. And then he was given the green light by Bannon, right? 2018, June of 2018. And one of the people in this foundation flew to Moscow to get the okay from Lavrov.
Yeah.
All right. So this was our prime minister, by the way, the same guy who in March of 2020 allowed Russian military vehicles to land in Rome and travel all the way up to Bergamo. You guys remember that horrific scene of the caskets being taken down from Bergamo because of the COVID, all the people dying in Bergamo?
Right, yes.
Okay. And then I'll give you some information on that because, okay, so these guys land, all right? We don't know to this day what they brought, where they've left it, who they brought, who came with them.
Yeah.
They left 3 scientists who then went to a hospital in Rome and got access to all the medical information, the COVID medical information. And you know, when they went back to Moscow, these 3, right after the war started, so like, let's say the renewed war, February 24th, in March, they sent them home. But up until then, they were functioning, they were operating in Rome, okay? As you guys know, anybody who operates at this level, doing this kind of research, belongs to intelligence services. So the prime minister had given the okay for these people to be operating inside our structures. In fact, there's a lot of the parliament is investigating, so on and so forth. But this thing is fucking crazy. So this
you have a parliament that sort of works, right? Sort of.
Well,
you know, it doesn't.
Yeah, I mean, I understand. Yeah.
You know, we have Draghi. We're lucky who is a very important figure. Okay, he knows what he's doing. But remember that here, you still have that faction. You have about 3 different groups, 3 different parties who are beholden to Russia and who are running propaganda operations for Russia. I mean, you have to be very, very good. And it's coming out. I mean, the way Russia operates abroad, especially now, is through their embassies. Okay? So through the Russian embassy in that's how it's done. Those are the connections. We do not know. We know that, for example, one of our politicians was having lunch, okay, with Razov, who's our the ambassador here, okay, and he was having lunch with the guy, you know, like the get-go of the war all the way until he got outed in the beginning of June. And, you know, Salvini, you guys know who Salvini is.
So hold your thought, Hi-Fi, because there's a couple things I want to. No, it's all.
You're going to stop me, Heidi.
No.
I got.
I don't want to ever stop, Monique. I just want you. I just want to sit here and listen to you talk for a long time. So.
I need to go back to the beginning of the conversation because what we are discussing, they're weapons of mind destruction.
Yes, right. So listen.
But they also bring, it's not just that, because hate speech, propaganda brings to death. It brings to violence and to death. We know that the latest, the Homeland Security, right, released in the beginning of June, a new advisory bulletin where they're saying that over the summer in the States, they're going to be, all right, they're looking into and they're monitoring all of the different groups that there are out there. Unfortunately, and you guys, I mean, January the 6th was your wake-up call. This is how it transfers, right? Let's remember Rwanda. Let's remember, okay, Srebrenica. Let's remember, I could go through all of the genocide.
Yeah.
It started with hate speech, and it goes on from there. Okay, and
that's
what's
what they
happening
always
now
do.
in Ukraine?
Yeah.
Look what's happening now in Ukraine.
Yeah, they've
So-
turned this propaganda into a science, and it really is the same pattern as biological warfare is probably the best proxy, because it spreads itself, right? It continues to build, because once it establishes it pulls people in, and then those people become advocates, and we're at 35% of people in the country right now who are brainwashed.
Yeah.
We used to think viral was a good thing.
Yeah. Well, interesting. What Monique described, we have the fifth column here. We have the Opus Dei problem here. We have the capturing of the Supreme Court. And it wasn't until Trump was backed by the Christian coalition, that's when he really got in the game. And what's interesting, if you've been watching the hearings, is that the Christian conservatives who've been testifying are actually kind of karmic retribution there, because they've actually been the ones talking about how he was at the center of this. So one thing I want to say is we are in a moment of trauma in America right now. When you mentioned the trigger laws earlier, Missouri went first, banning abortion in almost all cases, making it a felony, and it comes with a prison sentence of up to 15 years. And this is in a state that recorded 89 domestic abuse deaths in 2018 and 1,426 gun deaths in 2020. And I bring that up because, well, first of all, my writing partner, Shar Norris, and I in Byline Times are going to be interviewing all you guys and doing multiple stories on this. This one runs tomorrow. But from where you're sitting in your beautiful medieval town, how is this news affecting you? What do you see when you study the global fascist plot? What does this mean in Europe?
It means that we will be seeing in the future, if this is not checked, if this is not taken seriously, we will be also seeing the erosion of our rights, as well. You guys are ahead of us, but it will happen here. I mean, I'm seeing in France, let's say Le Pen and her group went from 8 seats to over 100 seats. Shit. I mean, there's a clear shift, of, let's say, moving from, I'm not even talking the left, I'm talking the center. So what the right is doing in order to make this stick, is they are proposing different factions in the right. So you'll have, for example, let's say a right of center, who will begin normalizing anti-immigration laws. Let's take a look at abortion again and all that kind of. And then what they do. This is the urbanization, because Orban was really good at doing this. Then you present in the same coalition somebody who's fucking crazy, like Zemmour. So that the guy who's right of center, still presenting very like almost fascist shit, looks like he's a moderate. Right?
And you know,
Who is it? That's what it means. You're shifting, right? So you're presenting. This was a trick that Putin did when actually Surkov, when Surkov put together the whole political, let's say, theater in Russia, right? For Putin, we're talking 2012. All right, that's the era there. That's what they're doing here. So we have parties like Salvini. Almost looks, he's coming out with this peace on earth, love and peace. Like, why do we have to bomb people? Why don't we? Like, this is the kind of thing. He's looking like a moderate, while all the crazy people who now are taking on, for example, they're starting. I put up a post. I'm actually working on an op-ed about this, where you have the people from Jim. You guys know the World Congress of Families.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
So we have, for example, Pilon, Simone Pilon, okay, who is part of this group where it's like the family party, and he came out right away within seconds. Okay, probably had it all prepared because, as we know, there was the leak, right, of the actual decision itself.
Yeah.
He had, finally, the United States Supreme Court has abolished abortion.
Yeah.
All right, which is not true. That's not what happened. But
Right.
this is he's selling it within minutes, and they all picked it up. I was on Telegram chats, and I have to tell you, Heidi, that this is what is happening.
Yeah.
Okay.
Right.
So they're taking the extremist views, hooking up. All right.
Yeah.
With extremists in the States, in England, in France, all over.
Yeah.
And that's what's going to happen. So even within the GOP, I'm sure you've got you've got your crazy nutters, okay? Yeah. And then you'll have the more moderate, okay, but they're not.
Right.
And we have this term, the Overton window, right? Which is sort of the acceptable, boundaries of political discourse, right? And the trick has been to push that, keep pushing that right.
Exactly.
And now it's kind of just fallen off a cliff. Like,
nuts.
Here it's gonna get very, very dark because we're suddenly gonna be talking about civil rights again. We're gonna be talking about voting rights.
No, those are on the table.
Women's suffrage is going to be on the table eventually. Yeah. I mean, they are going to take it all away.
Right. Well, so I was listening to an interview with Margaret Atwood, and then we had a nice Twitter exchange. And basically, people know that she wrote the Handsmail. Yeah, she wrote the Handsmail. So she wrote to me, they want to go back to white male property owners being in control of the vote. Women aren't mentioned in the original Constitution, have no political power, and not therefore full citizens in law, and got the vote in the U.S. only in 1920 via an amendment to the Constitution. Clearly, amendments can be overturned. What's next? Everything. They're coming for all of us. And we learned also from Berlusconi. He's a great example of somebody who pulled these extreme factions into his government. And he probably learned it from Mussolini, who pulled in extreme factions. And we now, again, what we learned recently was that one of the main goals of Russian propaganda was to take somebody who was a conservative and make them anti-immigrant. Take somebody who might have been a Hillary voter and push them toward Bernie, or so far left that she would not be left enough for them. And so that is exactly what's happening. And these congressional conspirators and wackos and QAnon types, I think it's very much by design. It's very cynical. It's literally like they're going to make somebody who is more of a traditionalist GOP, look safe and sane, but they're coming along with them. So this is a global fascist plot.
Oh yeah.
Well, I had a thought about the Constitution and the Supreme Court, just real quick. It seems to me what they're doing is making the Constitution like the Old Testament and the New Testament.
Wow.
Right?
Yeah.
And they're like they're defending the Old Testament. They're like the going back to the old days of orthodoxy. And all this New Testament shit is just, was added on by heretics later, right?
Wow. Whatever sticks, I guess, right?
Yeah.
Yes, high five.
It's my turn. All right. So first thing for you, Monique, is I am proud of your co-host for drawing out yet another member of the fucking PayPal mafia, David Sachs, or as I refer to him, David Sachs of shit. He is going after your co-host, saying we shouldn't be in Ukraine, and Lithuania shouldn't be blocking Kaliningrad, And it just goes to show that the PayPal mafia are a bunch of fascist fucking tech bros who need to be shut the fuck down. All right, sorry. That was that thing.
Yeah.
Second thing is, can we talk about Bulgaria? Because I
Bulgaria.
got to talk about Bulgaria.
Okay, no, Bulgaria is no. They can be bought. Let's not get our.
I was so hoping that
They're going
Rada
to
was
be bought. Don't worry. They're holding out. It's a bit like Orban. Okay, so
Okay.
they put up roadblocks. Don't worry about North Macedonia. Will get through, but they're probably in some negotiation. You know.
Yeah, I don't know if I want Albania in though. Albania is a little corrupt for me.
Albania, I do have to say they've cleaned up quite a bit.
Have they?
Yeah.
Okay.
And
Good.
I mean, look, as much as you can in Europe,
Mhm.
because I can tell you, Italy, as much as you can. All right. Let's just. But Albania, you have to say something about Albania. Albania, the United States and the UK, okay, have opened new bases, okay, in Albania. So Albania is on board, all right, in terms of security. That's very important for the security in Europe, okay, in general. Our weak points, all right, are Italy, okay, in terms of the problem is the internal political, okay. It's always volatile. Italy, as Ruth says all the time, was a laboratory for politics. So here, stuff, hits the fan first, and then it, dribbles around all over Europe.
Right.
But no, Bulgaria, I wouldn't worry about Bulgaria too much. Okay, so that's, I think, the areas that we have to be very watchful still now. Moldova, all right, Transnistria, as we know, right? Is very weak. Also, because Moldova does not have the security infrastructure that's necessary. I know that right now in Romania, for example, the Italians and the French and the German, all three have set up enough how can I put it, military hardware to help, all right, with Moldova, but it's very delicate. Also Kaliningrad, because you guys mentioned Kaliningrad, and as we know, the Suwalki Gap, all of that is extremely important.
Wow.
And the Russians, look, I'm writing up something. It's going to take me a while because I have to think through it, and it's got to sort of sediment, a bit.
Yeah.
And I know, Heidi, you know how that's like, right? When you have to sit and write, and Jim, no, you guys, that's the whole thing. Anyway, this is about an idea that I have about the weaponization of everything. Okay.
So
basically, the weaponization of everything is what Russia does. Any single issue, anything that they can use as a weapon against someone else, another nation, people, whatever, will be used. So Leningrad is really not a problem because the Russians can basically just bring in whatever they need, by boat. And Lithuania has not. They're applying EU sanctions. There are 3 tranches. The first one is was supposed to be in May, and they put it in June. Then they'll be applying a second tranche by the end of the summer, and then the third tranche at the end of the year. So that's all bullshit. So it's a lot of propaganda. And I'm sure you guys, even your groups over there, have picked up on, oh, look, poor Russia once again. All right.
Yeah, right.
That's what we're hearing here,
So I just want to say one thing I learned, because that's so brilliant. One thing I learned very early on when I was like, is this happening to me or is this not happening to me? Is that happening to them? Or is in an information war, there are no rear areas. We are all of us who are out there at the forefront using our real fucking names and telling the truth. We are all, and one of the reasons why is it's so goddamn cheap. That's why they're so good at hybrid warfare, because it doesn't cost a lot of money.
They're good at it.
They're very good at it. And we are very dumb. We keep falling for the same shit. We only have a few more minutes with you, and I want you very much to address something that I think is very important to America. Right now, that man-spreading frog, William Barr, is looking heroic because at the last minute, he said, as Jim would say, that failed sedition was a bridge too far, so he stood his ground and called bullshit. Well, we know that Barr came to Italy and your then PM gave him access to your files. Can you say a couple words on that? And then Hi-Fi, I know you got your hand up.
What I discovered is that the intelligence services, he had asked, he and Durham, by the way, not just Barr, but Durham.
That's really important.
He came, all right. Barr came on August the 15th. Now, this is important because in Italy, there's a national holiday, all right? It's like Christmas. Nobody works, nobody's around. So Barr comes into Rome, all right? And he has a meeting with the head, all right, of it's the watchdog, the guy that takes care of all the agencies, all right? The guy's, look, if you need information, then you have to go through, you have to ask for it, and it's got to go through all the legal procedures, all right? And the same thing with procedures. The judge, the internal, judge, he said, no, I'm sorry, we can't grant you. So what did our prime minister, again, the same piece of shit, that allowed Russian vehicles and military personnel and whatever it is to go all in a NATO nation, allowed him to see, and there was nothing there.
Wow.
Yeah. And then they did Italy Gate a few months later, if you recall.
Yeah.
There was that crazy. Oh my God. I remember when I was watching and I said, who the fuck is this guy?
Right.
The Italy Gate, with the vote that apparently got changed.
Which came up in the hearings this week. So we only have 2 more minutes. Hi-Fi, last question, and then I want a summary from Monique.
It's not a question. It's just a statement. If NATO really wants to fuck Putin up, tell them to call me.
I'm with you, Hi-Fi.
Oh my God.
I am with you. Okay. Just a brief, I guess, summary of thing Ukraine and Russia. Ukraine's hurting right now. They've lost, for the time being, there are troops in Severodonetsk, Russian troops occupying. One thing that is very, very important in those occupied territories, what Russia is trying to do is eradicate, just, wipe off the face of the earth anything that is Ukrainian, including people. We don't know about the mass graves in those areas. We don't know about the prisons, that they have, because in 2014, 2015, we know that in Donetsk, and in Luhansk, there were secret prisons, just like we know there's a concentration camp right now in Crimea. Yeah. So this is what is happening in the occupied territories. There are armaments, and thank goodness, the United States is stepping in and sending material, armaments, because this is fundamental, to Ukraine's victory. Without Ukraine's victory, we are lost. It's all gone. Yes. All right, it's all gone. And you know what? I know this sounds hyperbolic. It's not. It is absolutely not. So right now, the Russians, what problems are they having? They have problems with recruitment. Yeah. Okay. So they also have problems in the leadership. By the way, the new guy who is at the top running the real show is Zibko. Okay, General Zibko. It's not Shoigu. And there's another problems that the Russians have. Tonight at midnight, they have a payment that they're supposed to be making, and they may not be able to make that, so go into default. But I'm looking at that and I'm watching it. I need to understand it also a little more to see if this was the previous payment that they hadn't made and it was an extension, or if it's a new payment. Okay, so this is what is unclear to me personally, but that's what we're watching. So these are the problems that they have. They've got a tons of firepower. It's old, but they do indiscriminate bombing with the old stuff, and they keep, just like they did last night in Kiev and today in Kiev, they bomb the shit out of Kiev because the G7 were there. Okay, because
my God,
they were having their meeting. Another good thing that came out of the G7, by the way, just so that I keep you up to date on that, they set up what is called the Partnership for Global Infrastructure and Investment Fund. Okay, this is for low to middle, developing countries. It's not a lot of money. It's only 600 billion. But this sends a message. What they're trying to do with this is maybe lure some of those poor countries away from the Russians and from the Chinese and bring them more into our camp. Okay. Right. So it's a bit like the financial NATO. Okay. Yeah. That's the way they've done it. But I just want to say, you guys, keep going with everything that you're doing. Okay. And I really appreciate, all right, every single show that you guys put out. Keep going. We need to work together because this is the only way that we're going to be able to keep our democracies. That's basically it. So I'm sitting here in Siena, but it's like I'm sitting over there with you guys, having a coffee, having a chat, and we need legislation. We need better communication. All right. Our governments need to communicate. This is a war. We are part of a war. Yeah. And our information space is a battlefield. Yeah. And if you understand that, it gets into a national security, mode. And also citizens need to understand this because it's not somebody cute putting up a little fucking meme. Okay.
Yeah. National security. Yeah. It's national security.
Hi-fi, right? You called it, right? The weapons of mind destruction.
Yeah.
Okay. It's the same thing, man. That's the way it is. All right. Yeah. So this is, and just to finish off, Heidi, turn it off. This shit needs to be deplatformed. We need to go after this stuff. This is what I'm fighting for here in Italy.
Fuck yeah.
Okay. It's got to be deep because wherever they've deplatformed, it's gone down. Okay. Yeah. The propaganda, the influx from vectors.
Yes.
Across Russia, because we know it comes from there, has decreased incredibly. Where they don't, we also have to be careful about one other thing. Be careful that on Fox, on fucking Fox or wherever, they don't start inviting Russian propagandists and officials, because that's what happens here.
Okay. Thank you. Yeah, they have the fifth column here. They got people on their payroll. Monique, we love you. Come back. Promise us. We love you.
Thank you so much.
We love you. We love you.
Thank you so much, Monique.
Bye, guys. No, thank you. Keep rolling. Keep trucking. All right.
Yes, you as well. You as well. Oh my God. How much do we love Monique Camarra?
I just want to be like, I just want to listen to Monique for a long time.
I know. I just want to sit up and curl up in her lap. Okay, so yes, you can find Monique.
I just want to drink coffee and smoke cigarettes with her.
It's true. I love her so much. She's, you know what? She's not only so brilliant, but she's so kind. You know, she's a warm, safe space for me.
She has no fucks at all.
No. I love it.
People that have just fucks are the bane of everything right now. Get rid of
all your fucks. Isn't it beautiful that is one thing I can say is we found each other. Our show is global. We have this incredible global reach and this united group that we're forming of the best minds in this fight. And I feel very blessed right now. And speaking of the best minds in this fight, I think Connor's put together something very unique, different for his digital Dissent. And I'm very excited about this.
I didn't finish it, Heidi.
Oh.
Well, then, you know what?
Hey, we're busy people. We're busy. It's all right.
You know what? No. Why don't you preview?
This show is like a Swiss watch, everybody. It's fucking amazing.
Let's preview what it's going to be about, and then maybe we'll run the YouTube trailer, Gail's YouTube trailer, if we have it.
Yeah, I guess we could watch the first half of it. But
let's do it. Come on. Don't.
Yeah, let's see something. Let's see a little something.
All right.
Just a little bit.
Give me a second. All right.
All right.
I wasn't planning this, but
We'll fix it in
Swiss
post.
watch is coming together right now.
We'll fix it in post.
Yes, we always fix it in post.
Fix it in post. That'll be the next Moses on a motorbike jam.
Fix it in post.
Yeah.
Oh, I did finish all my masters, so all those put an EP out soon.
Oh, right
4 or 5
on.
songs. My protest.
Like I said,
songs.
we're busy people.
I'm so excited.
Yes.
And we'll be able to support you and buy it. So that's exciting.
That is exciting. Thank you.
All the projects. I would ask while we're looking for this video, if our viewers and listeners would please start referring to him as David Sacks of Shit, I would greatly appreciate it.
Yes.
We learned a few things today, didn't we? Pure insanity, weaponization of everything.
I like weaponization of everything. Is
exactly
what they do. They
WOE.
They just look at your entire sphere and they just find any weak spots and they fucking pound on it.
Yeah.
All right,
well,
it's
the hacker mentality. They're looking for any vulnerability that can be exploited.
I learned that from you. Yes.
Yeah.
All right, here we go.
Let's go.
So this, you want me to explain it? So this is going to be more of a positive rather than tearing somebody down or making fun or satire. I was trying to find something that was inspiring and sort
we
of
need that right now.
Uplifting in a way, and so this is a rewriting of a Terence McKenna lecture that he did about seeking beauty.
Oh, I remember that.
It's not finished, so it's the first half of it. Take a look.
The great irony of our obsession with progress, advancement in technology, is that it has enabled us to live long enough so that we figure out what a scam it all is. We figured out that what you are supposed to be working for isn't worth having. We figured out that our politicians are insincere buffoons. We figured out that professional scientists are clout-chasing, grab-tailing weasels. We discovered that all organizations are corrupted by ambition. We figured it out, and by we I mean the intellectuals, but only in the sense that anybody who figures it out is an intellectual. And figuring it out means you understand that such pursuits lead to alienation, that you recognize all this as manipulation and hype. The real hard choice that you're being pushed toward and that you might consider making before the yawning grave rings down the curtain on this cosmic drama, is between intellectual responsibility, freedom, and a devotion to elegance of thought. The final call is and will always be aesthetic, because we are monkeys, because we are so far from God that we cannot set knowing the truth as the standard for choosing among the models we can produce. Rather, we must set—
Whoa.
Wow. That's going to be amazing.
I gotta think. I'm back to being on mushrooms again. Thanks.
It's the first half. So, yeah.
No,
you're amazing, Connor.
It's beautiful. I was thinking the shit out of everything that was being said.
Thank you. Yeah,
beautiful.
thank you. It's his way of saying, don't worry about the big stuff. Just follow what comes easy to you, which is beauty.
I mean, uplifting maybe at least the first half.
It gets very
probably leading to a more hopeful future.
It does.
The first half is like, we're old enough to grow up to learn that everything is fake and everything sucks.
But in doing that, you learn. Yeah.
I totally get it, and I can't wait for the second half.
My first tweet after you guys let me know about Roe, I noticed right outside my window the birds were really loud, and my first tweet was, "Birds still sing under fascism." So we are going to be seeking beauty. We're going to be finding beauty because, before we shuffle off this mortal coil, it can't be all awful. There has to be beauty. So thank you for giving us that theme, Connor.
Well, I'll give you the rest of the theme next week.
Yeah. Awesome.
I love you guys. What a show, man.
That was awesome.
See you soon. Bye, guys.